All right, so we just got done watching They Clone Tyrone, and you mentioned that you think they changed the cover.
Yeah, on Netflix when I was going to pull it up, and the last time we finished watching it today. The last time we watched it was like about a week ago. It had a different cover, and I was pulling it up, a yellow cover with the main actor John Boyega. Is that how we're pronouncing his name? Um, but they changed it now to a motif of gold teeth. So I had a
Mm.
hard time finding it when I pulled it up. I was like, did Netflix take it down?
Why do you think they put up? Just curious what your thoughts are. Why they put up this new cover?
Um, I don't know. Maybe make it harder to find, or make it I don't know, more of a caricature. I really don't know. um
So you
Take a
felt
person out of the equation.
oh, so this one because I haven't seen the new cover. So it's just somebody with somebody's grill.
Yeah.
Uh, is it full blown gold teethuses, platinum out
Let me
type
see
of
if I
grill
can
thing, or
share and see. I think I have it up still.
because yeah, that's but that's the thing, when we talk about Hollyweird. Um,
Yeah, so over there in the corner, I don't know if you can see, but
oh, is
that
that
is the
the? Oh
new They
gosh.
Clone Tyrone. Let me
Ah,
see if I can.
yeah, that's definitely some stereotypical stuff right there,
Yeah,
for
so it
sure.
just shows what they're still doing. And the other one was, like I said, of the main character, Fontaine. Spoiler alert if anybody has not seen it yet. Um, but yeah, the first poster was like of him, several of him, and maybe some other main characters mixed in.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, well, you know how Hollywood does us. I
Well, like I was saying, I don't
mm,
know. Is this do you see it as enlightening, kind of trying to shine light on the subject matter, the systemic issues that we deal with? I mean, they can't possibly think that we're unaware at this point.
I mean, I think it had some interesting points in there. Definitely systemic issues. And the tropes were in there, obviously, the stereotypes, the chicken, the great drink.
Well, I guess I'll tell you from a personal, standpoint. It feels like, back in the 80s and 90s when I was coming up, seeing these, new age black exploitation like Boys in the Hood, Colors, you name it, Menace to Society. It, I, it was like there was like, it felt like it was almost in the past and that we had kind of moved ahead of it. But now watching, They Clone Tyrone, and seeing that we really haven't moved ahead, so they can't still be making a joke out of it. So I'm saying, did they create it for a bigger reason to raise awareness and in a palatable, funny way?
So it sounds like, from your perspective, it was more like a nostalgic
No, no, it's more like
homage,
trying.
or what?
It's more like trying. Yeah, well, it's a throwback, but it's you know, raising awareness to the public about the systemic issues that we face. But I guess movies have been like that throughout time. Um, but looking at it through a different lens, back in the day, we thought we were moving forward, or at least I did,
Mm.
as a community. And now when I watch it, it's like, okay, 60 years after civil rights, nothing has changed. Are they still poking fun, or are they making this stuff to make a change?
Well, I just looked up the genres that supposedly They Clone Tyrone is, and supposedly it's listed under comedy, mystery, and fantasy.
Well, they're not going to tell you. So it's that would be through the subconscious.
Yeah. Um, it did have always some elements of, comedy, definitely, mystery and fantasy, all that combined, and I'd say drama too. Um, so yeah, it definitely took the elements, and hopefully, I don't know if we're just veering off, whatever. I don't know, but it from what we were originally talking
Well,
about.
it's not a documentary, so we're not looking at it for, truth, but is the truth in there?
Good question. I think so, kind of. I mean, okay, so this is where it gets like, all right, fam, I'm not trying to get, for those that listening to this, I'm trying not to get too deep. And Kim, please forgive me, because I know sometimes you be like, Moya, you about
I
to
will
get
cut
way
you
too
off if
deep
you
on
start,
somebody.
if you go too far left off.
I'm not going to go too far left, but, we have to, I mean, when we talk about the truth, right, we have to kind of put it into its proper context when we're talking about the truth. And we have to talk about, like, and obviously most of us should know by now, who understand history, like where we came from, like who we were, even before, like I'm talking about concepts, right? Like some of the African traditions, right? And then later carried on to now us being American, quote unquote, Black Americans, aka Negroes, aka African Americans, aka descendants of, American chattel slavery, you name it, right? So we're talking about taking all these concepts and now putting it into a construct where you have a creative entity like film and TV to say, okay, even if it's in this narrative that we're talking about, they clone Tyrone, right? How much of this is actually a reflection, let me not use the word projection, but reflection of Black culture, right? Black society in real time, in real life.
Well,
Do we,
it definitely touched on Black culture, but like I said, coming up, you were kind of just immersed, in it. That's what you were doing as you were growing up with, younger. We have the candy paint and the, chicken, perms, conditioning, all of that stuff, but we're not thinking about it in terms of any kind of mind control, which is what the movie They Clone Tyrone kind of they alludes to. Just replicas of past generations. Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to ramble on, so we might have to cut this short, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, but yeah.
No, we could spoil away. I mean, this thing been out since when? 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? I mean, people have already reviewed it, so I'm sure there's a whole bunch of spoilers out there.
Okay, so what are your overall thoughts on the movie? So was it created for good or nefarious reasons to mind control more? I mean,
right.
And I can't be mind controlled, and I won't say I can't be mind controlled, but I'm talking about the younger generations now, what they're growing up seeing. Just like I said, when I was growing up, seeing it, dealing with the crack epidemic and everything that went with it, I didn't really think anything of it. I thought that that's just what it was, because that was what was presented to me through the mass media and other means. I made it out unscathed for the most part.
Kind of. I think we all got touched a little bit.
For the most part, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you say that, because I mean, Okay, so when you talk about this movie, right, and maybe we'll give some spoilers or not, but let's just go down some of the stereotypes, right?
Okay.
So in the
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when you were talking about constructs. It was more like stereotypes, if
well,
those are two different things.
well, I mean, I guess the question is, are they two separate things? Because if in lack of a better word, the culture, in particular, quote unquote, the Black American culture, if somebody in our community created chicken, or somebody who's not of our community created fried chicken, let me be specific, fried chicken, right? And then your community, happens just to like fried chicken, and then all of a sudden you get stereotyped as being a group that likes fried chicken, aka watermelon. You know what I mean? Like, so even though everybody eats fried chicken and everybody eats watermelon, though, like, we get stereotyped as loving chicken and loving watermelon,
I mean, well, that's
right?
what it was. That's what it was growing up. Yes, fried chicken and watermelon. And I told you about my Uncle Monkey in Louisiana who had a watermelon patch. So yeah, that
Uncle
is
Monkey.
exactly what it was. Fried chicken and watermelon. So that's not necessarily a stereotype in my mind because that's what we were doing. It was generational.
And Kim, I do appreciate that. I mean, in essence, it shouldn't. I'll just say this: it shouldn't be a stereotype because everybody partakes in chicken
I
and
know, but it was
watermelon,
part of
right?
our, lineage and heritage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm plant based now, but I grew up eating chicken and watermelon. I mean, that
Mhm.
it was just part of what we did. But I'm just saying, like, even though it's part of what we did, right? It still then gets put into that like, we are the ones that
Well,
get
we would be
stereotyped, right?
disproportionately impacted because we eat it the most. And I think we do eat it the most. I don't think that's really a stereotype. We invented it, we eat it the most. Uh, Colonel Sanders stole the idea from a black woman, as I recall, if I'm remembering correctly.
Let's just say allegedly. We still need to confirm that information, but I would just say most likely, right?
Okay, likely.
Most likely. I
Most
just want to say
likely.
allegedly.
Okay,
All
most
right.
likely. And we'll have to present that information with some evidence at a future point. But you know what I'm saying? See,
Yeah.
are all of our connections to it? So I'm saying I don't think that's a stereotype. And then also they touched on the hair products. We do use black hair products, which is pretty much segregated from, so they could put stuff in the hair products and um, do it that way. And what was the other one? Oh, the grape drink.
Grape drink. Yeah, I didn't really grow up with like that whole grape drink. Not saying that we didn't have quote unquote Kool-Aid. I think that's what they called it back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was some like other type of quote unquote grape drink that came about. It was even like worse for your health than Kool-Aid. I ended
Right.
up doing that in college. I can't even remember what it was called, but it was just like sugar on top of sugar. And I wanted to actually touch on this point too because I just noticed that there was a lot of like interchanging of eras in there. They
Hmm.
had some 70s stuff and some 80s stuff, 90s, maybe some current stuff that I thought was actually pretty cool. Like, I thought that was pretty genius. Like, there was one scene, spoiler alert, where Tyrone ends up finding, I guess, his mom in some kind of like machine or whatever. And it was like an old school speaker, or yeah, basically a speaker slash recording machine of some sort. I couldn't really tell what it was. But yeah, it was like back in the day. It may have been like 60s ish, 70 type of um device, recording device of some sort. It was like one of those push button cassette ish types of things. I thought it was pretty cool. And then, they had obviously, some of the Cadillacs in there, um,
Right. And they
modern day
talked
cars.
about Bitcoin or one of the cyber currencies. So that brought it to current day. And I don't know, it almost feels like they do that to make it ambiguous to so you really don't have a sense of time.
Mm.
I
Yeah, I thought,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it spans throughout time. What the topic was.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I thought that was pretty good, in terms of story. But overall, I thought it was somewhat of an enlightening movie. I thought
Yeah,
David Allen Greer's character was pretty fun, actually.
that was a
Uh,
good one. That was a good one.
that was hilarious, and they had some what do they call it? When people features, what is it called? When people
Not
cameos,
cameos.
yeah, cameos. There you go. Thank you. Kiefer Sutherland is in the movie, which I was tripping. I was like, oh, okay, Kiefer Sutherland's in there. David Allen Greer showed up. Who else was in there? Um, I'm trying to think. Those are
It
the
was
two off the
hard
top of my
to
head.
tell you the truth. It's kind of hard to see. It is shot dark, and I think that's a cinematic choice. But yeah, the movie's kind of shot dark. Why do you think they did that as a cinematic choice after you're
Interesting.
seeing the movie? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
I probably, and this is just, I don't know. I'm not the creator, so this is just a best guess.
Okay.
Best guess would probably be because it had something to do with the underground,
Mm,
right? And so, I mean, if you're looking at it from that concept, a lot of those colors obviously are going to be more darker. Um,
true.
you
True.
know, so that's the one of the reasons. But creatively speaking, why they decide to shoot it like that, and it's interesting though. It's an interesting concept because I mean, in a ways, it's kind of a dark comedy. I mean, it did have some comedic
True.
elements in there,
That's
but like it
true.
was kind of a dark comedy. So
Yeah. There's nothing funny about, uh, psych top operations on a community.
yeah, that was an interesting, subject to broach because I mean, as I said before, I mean, it's hard when you go through these in real life, right? And you go through these instances where you see, stuff happening in the community, like, drive-by shootings, or just not even drive-by shootings, other, quote unquote black people killing other black people. Um, family issues, that we have in our family. And some of it, not all of it, but some of it's due to our post-traumatic slave syndrome, that we have. And so, some of that did show up in the movie. So, um, as you were mentioning, I mean, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like, because I know you mentioned, watermelon and chicken not being a stereotype, but what, in your opinion, goes from something that's just part of a culture to then what is then considered to be a
Well, I would
stereotype?
say a stereotype is like being called lazy, like we don't work. We know that's not true. And I mean, really not trying to get off track, but I could just point to ETM Media and the California Reparations Task Force and the communications contract. I mean, we were working the hardest, didn't get even an opportunity to apply for a contract. So that's what I mean by stereotype, that black people don't work hard.
Mm,
That's one. Something that is just not true.
okay, so just so I understand correctly, even though chicken and watermelon,
I think that our consumption is probably the highest on that. Yeah. And you're saying, oh, everybody eats it. That I think our consumption is the highest, and we have historical generational ties to those foods.
So, so if I'm understanding this correctly, so eating chicken and watermelon, even though historically we've done that, um, are you saying that, if I'm correct, that something that's part of your culture isn't or can't be labeled as a stereotype, even though it's
If it
part of our thing?
happens, if that's what's happening, if that's what's going on, I don't think it's a stereotype. I just think it's the truth.
Mm,
Back to the truth again. But that's what I think the truth is. And another thing, since we're talking about generational history, that I noted in They Clone Tyrone was when the clones were free with nothing, it was like back to slavery and being
mm,
emancipated with nothing.
very good point. Yeah, I could see that analogy for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so what do you think? I mean, about stereotypes, if it's true, can it be a stereotype?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, for example, obviously there were some of us that grew up with, watermelon chicken, and I probably say a lot of us did, but there's some of us that didn't, you know,
Well, I know
wasn't
that
part
we're
of
doing
our.
our research, but isn't that an invention and part of soul food? I mean, I know they have
Well,
Chinese fried
yeah, I
chicken.
mean,
Yeah.
oh, that's hilarious. Chinese fried chicken, but which is true. I'm not trying to make light
Yeah.
of
I mean,
it, but
that's
it
our
is true.
creation.
Chinese
So,
do
yeah,
have
I mean, I'm gonna own it.
that. No, I will agree. Like that part, as it being, if something's a fact and somebody invented it, I would agree that that's what happened. But I guess what I'm trying to understand is, or make my point is that, like, you can have something. I'll give you a good example, right? Hip hop, rap music. Now, there is some, I guess, discussion going on about who created hip hop. I mean, for me, there really is no debate because it's a Black American invention, regardless of if this person came from Jamaica, whatever. I don't know if they're actually a descendant, But bottom line, it's a Black American cultural thing, right? Now, all of a sudden, now that's fact, right? So it's part of the culture. We grew it, blah, blah, blah. But now, even though, people, some of us, not all of us, was wearing them like gold teeth and all the other stuff, like all of a sudden now other cultures are rocking, which I don't know, what do they call that? Not cosplay, but there's another term that they use these days when you're co-opting other people's culture. Can't remember what it is. What is
Tether.
it? Hilarious. No, not tethering. There's there's something else that they call it.
Appropriation.
Appropriation. Thank you. So when people appropriate another culture, right? For example, so like people are rocking the gold teeth, right, and doing all this other stuff, and they're rapping and like there was this one virtual reality dude, and he started rapping and all that other stuff. So my thing is like, okay, but that's not. I mean, that may have been a little part of us with the gold teeth, but there were like other parts of us or the community, the hip hop, quote unquote, Black American culture that didn't do none of that stuff, right? So I mean, that's my thing. There's like a fine line between like when you create something and then it becomes a stereotype.
But
right?
if it's part of the okay, I guess my argument is, and I got to get out of here in about 5 minutes, is if it's the part of the culture, it's not really a stereotype and a trend that we created, and it's not even you talking about gold teeth. That's not even a new trend. My grandma had gold teeth back in Louisiana, and that was a trend. Everybody did have their little gold front, maybe not a full grill, just one on the front, just a little one and a little outline. So that is like culture. And I saw somebody posted on like Twitter and was like, Black Americans been doing this, and I was like, yeah, my grandma had a gold front.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you at all with
So I
things that
don't think
happen in
it's
our
part of a
culture.
stereotype because it's part of the culture and we do it more than anybody. I mean, you might see a few people with grills, but yeah, that's us. So I mean, and I don't know. You said you're putting this out on the the ether webs. Let me know. I mean, if it's something that we do disproportionately more than any other culture and created the trend, is that a stereotype when they show us doing it or when we
Yeah,
show
I don't know.
ourselves doing it?
Yeah,
But like I
you know.
said, some things like us being lazy that I know is not true. That's the stuff that I look at as stereotypes. And I'm sure there's some other stuff too. So like I said, send me examples.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just a question, that I have is what, you know, when you've created something, then what does it then become, a stereotype? And let's just be, call it what it is, and then we'll wrap it up here. Let's just call white people, right? Um, White people are, and I read some article saying that supposedly, white people are naturally racist. Don't quote me. I think it was something like that. Something here in California. I think there's like a lawsuit that's happening right now, which is, it's. I don't think it's true, right? It's a social construct, but you even have like the stereotypical, white people talking a certain way, like nerdy, So, like, I understand like the stereotypes, but like it's just one of those things. And I'd like to know from the family too, like what is something that your culture just rocks, and then can it be made as a stereotype or not? I mean, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, so with that, I guess final thoughts on the movie, yay, nay, good for the culture.
Why you even ask that question? I can't. What do you think? I don't even
Or
know.
is it, propaganda in some way? Well, I will tell you this. The whole Jamie Foxx and, this is not even allegedly, it's just, my own personal opinions, if I'm still allowed to have them here in America, is the whole, health scare thing with the cloning and then coming back. It almost looked like a PR stunt. And I know I'm not the only one who said it. And I was like, I hope it would not be, because that would be taking it too far to try to deceive people into any kind of whatever call to action participation that you're looking for from them. So
yeah, overall I thought it was a good movie. Would I recommend people to go watch it? Sure. I mean, is it something where it will wake up some people? Possibly, if they're quote unquote not woke at all, then yeah, maybe. But I want to give specifically black people the benefit of the doubt that we are more intelligent than what is presented. And yeah, I mean, that's my 2 cents. I mean, I don't know, rating it from 1 to 5 stars what I'd rate it, but
I mean, I think it's worth a watch. Do you think it could have been a theatrical release because it went straight to streaming?
Limited. I think a limited release would have been like okay, but not probably been like 2 weeks max in a theater. Because I don't know if it would have had that strong of a pull. I mean, Jamie Foxx was in it.
Yeah.
So that definitely would have drew in some, some.
Oh, and Jamie Foxx did an amazing job, by the way.
Absolutely, Jamie Foxx rocks it again, and we wish the best to Jamie and his recovery or whatever is going on with the brother. And his so-called tweet that he made, which was like weird. I was just like, what? Like, didn't even talk about the J community, and talk about the J community, and all of a sudden, stuff starts happening. So I'll just say the J community.
Yeah, that was weird. And then, the apology that followed. I mean, I just don't think we need to have to apologize for, how we feel and things that we say, especially if they're not directed at anybody in particular.
Yeah, kind of felt like a, guilty conscience going on. I don't know. But
I
anyway,
felt like it was pressure from, communities.
mm, yeah, I don't. I mean, I mean, if my thing is like, if they ain't talking about you, then
Oh,
no
guilty
reason to jump
conscious
in.
from
Yeah,
the hit dogs that are hollering, not
yeah,
guilty about Jamie apologizing because he did apologize.
correct. Yeah, his first initial statement, like, why are you going to respond to that? Do you have some guilty conscience?
Yes.
Why? Because like, if you weren't talking about me, if you didn't literally say something,
Right.
why would I respond?
I
I'd be
just
like, he
keep
ain't talking about me.
scrolling. I keep scrolling. He ain't talking to me.
Okay, well, let's keep it pushing. I ain't got nothing to do with this, so let's keep it moving.
Yeah, so weird times we're in, weird times. And They Cloned Tyrone was a weird movie, but I think worth the watch.
All right,
And
cool.
watch it with an objective eye.
Definitely objective. That's even if you have access to Netflix anymore, because they will cut you off if you don't, you know, have that subscription. I think they've pretty much gone through the whole. You can't have like double dipping stuff in the subscription. So, don't know. I don't watch Netflix like that anyway. But for those that still have Netflix, definitely go check it out.
Price is going up.
Word. All right.